As I've mentioned before, Rhythm Heaven Groove is selling really well. In just the first 3 weeks, it sold nearly 700,000 physical copies alone in just Japan, which means that it could have easily sold over a million at this point, possibly over 1.5 to 2 million copies, depending on how well the digital copies sold in Japan, as well as how well it sold in the West. It's actually the 3rd best-selling Nintendo game in Japan this year, behind Tomodachi Life and Pokopia, so I feel like Groove will not be the last we see of this series. We've even seen from recent interviews that this series is very important to Sunku, and he wants to work with Nintendo on this series every opportunity he gets, even going as far as declining offers made from other developers to make rhythm games. And this series is one of the reasons he was able to push through during difficult times for him, so I feel like he would likely be interested in being involved with more games after Groove. So another game after Groove seems very likely. So what exactly will they do next? So that's what I will be discussing in this video, and also, happy 20th anniversary to the Rhythm Heaven series. Rhythm Tengoku released all the way back on August 3rd, 2006. I can't believe it was that long ago. And I have a big Groove video planned, so stay tuned. So the first possibility is something that will possibly happen within the next few months, and that is either an update or a Switch 2 edition for Groove, and if not a Switch 2 edition, at the very least just an update. While Groove has already had a ton of content, I could see them adding a couple more things to the game, like possibly some extra games to celebrate the 20th anniversary with one game from each previous entry. Personally, I'd like to see Toss Boys from Tengoku, Rockers from DS, Tap Troop from Fever, and First Contact from Megamix. I think it will all be games that haven't returned in Megamix just to kind of make things fresh. And I could also see there being a classic remix as well that includes all of these games and uses their visuals from their respective sequels. I could even see a mode similar to WarioWare in Megamix, that changes the visuals of the rhythm games. They could either bring back the WarioWare theme from Megamix, or even have references to different Nintendo series, like one that replaces Sister Silver and Disc Dog with Samus, the Dino from Feeding the Beast with Yoshi, or the birds from Synchro Wings with the ducks from Duck Hunt would be really cool. As for a Switch 2 edition, I'd love to see native 4K support, as well as a 120 FPS option to make the visuals synced even better with the audio. I think that would be nice, but not super necessary. And also, if Nintendo or Ko Takeuchi somehow managed to watch this video, please add Sister Silver to the performances that happen in the cafe. I feel like she's the one character that's missing from that, so please add her to that in an update. But moving on, sometime within the next couple years, I think a collection of the first 3 Rhythm Heaven games could also be a possibility, despite being a little more unlikely. Even though Megamix exists, I could still see them do a straight-up remaster and re-release of Tengoku DS and Fever. I feel like this would be the easiest way to meet the demand of a lot of new Rhythm Heaven fans that started with Groove, and tiding them over before the next game eventually releases. This would also be the perfect opportunity to officially translate Rhythm Tengoku, since it would very likely not be translated if it was added to Switch Online with Nintendo Classics, even if it did drop worldwide, which I do think would be the case if it was put on NSO. And it would also be the perfect way of making DS playable on modern systems, since they could tweak it to work with button controls, or there could still be an option to have the touchscreen, but mainly you would be able to use buttons here. I will say, this release is probably the most unlikely out of the options in this video, because these could all get added to NSO at some point. I already mentioned that Tengoku could really easily drop on the GBA library at any time, and I feel like DS and Wii libraries will probably happen within the next few years. Though I would prefer if they were released fully as a port rather than emulated on NSO, because emulating them may cause issues with audio lag and input lag, at least with Nintendo's emulators. I'm not saying that for emulators in general, just like sometimes Nintendo's emulators, like, you can't always trust them. They're good for, like, a lot of games casually, but Rhythm Heaven is really something you have to get right in terms of audio lag. So the next option is pretty obvious, and that is a direct follow-up to Groove with a new Rhythm Heaven game on the Switch 2. I could see this happening around 2029 to 2031 if the gaps between the previous games are any indication. Considering the success of Groove, I don't think we'll either have to wait 10 years or until the end of the Switch 2's lifespan to get a new game. But I feel like a new Rhythm Heaven game on the Switch 2 will likely try to stand out from Groove in a few different ways to justify its existence. I think it could definitely be more of a visual showcase, similar to how Rhythm Rally or Airboarders had 3D visuals on the DS. I also think Disc Dog and Groove having more visual depth and technically being in 3D could also be a hint towards the visuals in the next game. It would also be cool to see a distinct theme for the next game to make it stand out. One idea that I had is a world tour theme, which would feature different genres of music from around the world, as well as visuals that kind of match those different regions. Considering how Groove already has multiple songs in different languages, I feel like this would be perfect and the natural evolution of that idea. A remix maker would also be a nice addition to have as well. I understand why they didn't have one in Groove because it was the first new game in a decade, but considering how dedicated this community is to making custom content with things like Heaven Studio or the countless fan remixes, almost in a comparable way to how Mario fans are with making ROM hacks, I feel like a remix maker would definitely be a nice addition to make the next game stand out. And my final idea for the next big Rhythm Heaven thing is a Rhythm Heaven spin-off. So during the Switch 2 era so far, we've seen a lot of games that stand out from their Switch 1 entries. Splatoon got Raiders, rather than quickly shifting to Splatoon 4, Yoshi got Mysterious Book, which is more of a sandbox exploration-based game than the previous 2D Yoshi games, and a new 3D Donkey Kong within the first year rather than a 3D Mario. So I would fully expect the next Rhythm Heaven to do something similar on the Switch 2. So I think they might actually make a Rhythm Heaven RPG. In Groove, Beat Spell is a surprisingly fleshed out mode with a very fun battle system and even a little story attached to it. It seems like there was a lot of passion and effort put into it despite it being a side mode. And with how Nintendo usually likes to innovate and create new experiences, or build off of unique ideas that they introduce in previous games, I think a Rhythm Heaven RPG is something that I could see them easily making. Not to mention that the team developing Groove, EPD4, already has some experience developing unconventional RPGs, like Miitopia and Ring Fit Adventure. And considering how several Intelligent Systems developers were involved and assisted with Groove, they could even bring in part of the Paper Mario team to develop a project like this. But I think there's a lot of potential for a Rhythm Heaven RPG. Not only could it build off of Beat Spell's lore, but they could also incorporate the rest of the Rhythm Heaven universe. Like, they could traverse across different locations, like Earthworld, Heaven World, from Megamix, as well as the Rhythm Kingdom and space, or other locations from various Rhythm games. It would also be interesting if the party members were characters from different Rhythm games, and they would kind of join you on this adventure, and I say you as, like, literally the character named you from Beat Spell. And they would have moves that reference their respective Rhythm games. Like Sister Silver could throw frisbees, the Wandering Samurai could use his sword, and Tom Cadio could use his hammer. It could even have an explorable overworld with dungeons and towns, but rather than solving puzzles in certain areas, there would be a Rhythm game that would play out in that area that would kind of let you traverse or let you unlock a certain area. And all of these Rhythm games would be instantly replayable from a separate menu with perfect campaigns and remixes to go along with them, so there would almost be a mini Rhythm Heaven game within this Rhythm Heaven RPG as well. So I think there are plenty of ways that they could make a Rhythm Heaven RPG work, so I really hope it happens at some point. But anyways, I think there's a lot of potential for what they could do with Rhythm Heaven going forward. I feel like the Rhythm Heaven series is incredible, and it does a lot to innovate upon the rhythm game genre, so I really hope we see a lot more of this series going forward. But anyways, let me know what you think down in the comments, and thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server and Blue Sky if you want to. Stay perky, and remember, Sister Silver best girl, and Rhythm Heaven Groove for Game of the Year.